Living full-time on a cruise ship. It sounds like the ultimate dream. No rent, no cooking, no chores, just endless horizons, turquoise waters, and the promise of freedom every sunrise. You wake up one week in the Caribbean, the next in the Mediterranean. Your neighbors are friendly travelers, your backyard, an infinite ocean. Your home? A floating resort filled with live music, champagne brunches, and sunsets that could make anyone believe they've escaped reality. That's the fantasy. It's what the brochures sell, what the influencers post, and what so many of us secretly imagine when life on land feels too heavy. But here's the truth. Once you peel back the glossy marketing and the perfectly filtered photos, a very different story emerges. A side of cruise ship living that most people never get to see, unless they actually try it. Over the years, I've spoken with people who've lived at sea for months, even years. I've listened to crew members, captains, and long-term passengers, and I've tried it myself. What I've discovered might surprise you, because while the dream is real, so are the sacrifices. In this video, I'm going to reveal the hidden side of living on a cruise ship. The financial traps, the isolation, the unexpected costs, and the quiet burnout that no one talks about. Each part of this story builds on the last, and by the end, you'll see the full picture, the real cost, the hidden challenges, and what it's actually like to call a cruise ship your home. Let's start with the first thing that draws everyone in. The promise of endless luxury. Cruise lines know exactly what they're selling. The good life. Gourmet dinners every night, live shows that rival Broadway, jacuzzis with ocean views, and a staff that seems to exist just to make you smile. For the first week, or maybe two, it really does feel like paradise. You're pampered, you're entertained, you're living the fantasy. But here's the thing about fantasy. It's not designed to last forever, because when you live on a cruise ship long-term, the extraordinary becomes ordinary. That lobster tail that made your first dinner feel magical? By night 50, it tastes like reheated leftovers. The comedy show that made you laugh until you cried? You'll know the punchlines by heart before the comedian even opens his mouth. And those buffets. Mountains of food, endless options. After 3 months, you'll start dreaming about something simple. Scrambled eggs made in your own kitchen, a sandwich you didn't have to line up for. One long-term cruiser told me, "People think I'm living like a king, but it's like staying in a resort that never changes. The scenery outside shifts, but inside, it's the same people, same shows, same food. It stops feeling luxurious. It starts feeling repetitive." That's the first crack in the fantasy. Because cruise ships are built for short-term excitement, not permanent living. They're designed to dazzle you for 7 days, not sustain you for 7 months. Now let's talk about the part that catches almost everyone off guard. Money. One of the biggest selling points of cruise ship living is the idea that it's cheaper than a normal life. You see those math breakdowns online. $100 a night for room, food, entertainment, and travel? That's cheaper than rent. On paper, it sounds perfect. In reality, it's one of the most expensive, cheap lifestyles you can find. Here's why. Cruise ships are floating revenue machines. Every single moment on board is engineered to make you spend more. Drink packages, specialty restaurants, spa treatments, casino nights, Wi-Fi, laundry, excursions. Even bottled water isn't always free. And the trick is, you don't feel it happening. There's no cash, no physical transaction, just a little card that says Sea Pass or Cruise Card. You swipe it, smile, and move on, until one day you get your statement and it hits like a tidal wave. That $3,000 a month lifestyle, it quietly becomes $6,000, sometimes more. I've spoken to retirees who started saving money by selling their homes to live at sea, only to realize that their floating retirement plan was sinking them into debt. The cruise industry is brilliant at this. They sell the illusion of simplicity. One price covers it all, but what they're really offering is constant temptation at sea. So while it might feel like you're escaping financial stress, you're really trading bills for swipes. And the sea doesn't send you reminders until it's too late. When people imagine living on a cruise ship, they picture this: a balcony suite, morning coffee in the breeze, dolphins gliding past below. The truth? Most long-term residents can't afford that. Balcony cabins cost thousands more per month, so unless you're wealthy, you'll likely be in an interior cabin. A small windowless room, barely 150 square feet. To put that in perspective, a standard bedroom on land is around 200. Now imagine cramming your entire life, clothes, desk, bathroom, bed, into less space. Then take away sunlight. At first it's cozy. You tell yourself it's fine. But after a few weeks, you start to feel it. The still air, the lack of natural light, the hum of the engine below you. One woman who tried it for 6 months told me, "It felt like living in a closet that rocked back and forth. Storage? Minimal. Privacy? None. And the walls? Paper thin. You'll hear your neighbors snore, argue, or watch late-night TV. Some adapt. They decorate. They bring comforts from home. But for most, that cabin becomes a constant reminder. This isn't freedom. It's containment. When you live at sea long enough, your cozy cabin stops feeling like a sanctuary and starts feeling like a cage." Here's something that surprises almost everyone. Living on a cruise ship can be incredibly lonely. It sounds impossible. You're surrounded by thousands of people, right? But those people are temporary. They come aboard for a week or two, then vanish. You might meet a couple you connect with, share dinners, laugh, explore ports together. And then, one morning, they're gone. Their vacation ends. Yours doesn't. And that cycle repeats. Over and over and over. Psychologists call it the gilded cage effect. From the outside, it looks like luxury. From the inside, it feels like confinement. Your world becomes a floating bubble. Same hallways, same shows, same staff, same routine. The outside changes. Inside, nothing does. A retired passenger once told me, "It's like living in Groundhog Day, except the view keeps moving." The longer you stay, the more disconnected you feel. From the world, from your friends, even from yourself. Because on a ship, you're not really living somewhere. You're just floating through time. Cruise ships sell the image of health and relaxation, sunshine, sea air, and endless leisure. But when you live on board long-term, your health faces challenges you'd never expect. Let's start with the obvious. You're in a confined environment with thousands of strangers cycling in and out every week. Every ship becomes a floating petri dish. Colds, flus, norovirus, even COVID. These things spread faster at sea than almost anywhere else. If you get seriously ill, ship doctors can help, but only to a point. They're not hospitals. And if you ever need major treatment or evacuation, you're paying tens of thousands, out of pocket if insurance won't cover it. Then there's the lifestyle side. Buffets, desserts, cocktails, late-night snacks. It's paradise for a week, but poison over months. Most gyms on ships are small, crowded, and not built for consistent training. Add the gentle sway of the sea, and even simple workouts feel awkward. Several long-term residents told me the same thing. "I gained 25 pounds in my first year. I didn't even realize it was happening." The environment itself encourages indulgence. It's comfort on repeat. No cooking, no cleaning, no restraint. And slowly, it chips away at your health, your discipline, and your energy. The irony? The lifestyle that's supposed to make you feel alive can quietly wear you down. At first glance, life on a cruise ship looks like one big floating family. Crew members greeting guests by name, bartenders remembering your favorite drink, waiters pulling out chairs as if you were royalty. It feels warm, personal, almost intimate. But stay on board long enough, and you start to see what most passengers never do. A deep, invisible divide. The crew lives in a different world. Below deck, out of sight. They work 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. They sleep in windowless shared cabins, eat in separate dining halls, and follow strict hierarchies that most guests will never even notice. While passengers sip champagne under chandeliers, crew members are often 2 decks below, eating mass-prepared meals in fluorescent light. And here's the part that feels the strangest when you live on board long-term. You're caught between those two worlds. You're not part of the crew, but you're no longer a tourist either. You start to build friendships with crew members, share stories, laugh after hours, and then realize that those relationships can never fully cross the line. Because there are rules, strict ones, about how close crew and passengers can get. One bartender told me, "We see you every day. We care about you, but we can't really be your friends. The ship doesn't allow it." And that's the heartbreak of long-term cruising. You live among people, but never truly with them, always separate, always somewhere in between. On land, even if you move around a lot, there's still something stable. Your favorite coffee shop, a friend you can call, a neighborhood that feels familiar. On a cruise ship, there's none of that. Everything and everyone is temporary. Every week, thousands of passengers disembark, and a new crowd replaces them. It's like living inside an endless loop of introductions and goodbyes. At first, it's exciting. Every dinner brings new faces, new stories, new energy. But after months, it starts to feel hollow, because everyone else is having a vacation while you're living in their vacation. One long-term cruiser put it perfectly. It's like being the kid who has to stay after class while everyone else gets to go home. You make friends, share laughs, maybe even connect deeply. And then, every Saturday, you watch them leave. You wave goodbye from the deck as the next wave of strangers arrives over time. That revolving door wears on you. You start to crave consistency, familiarity, a sense of belonging. But the truth is, there is no permanence at sea. The ocean moves, the people move, and eventually you realize that maybe you've stopped moving forward at all. When you're a passenger, the cruise line handles everything. Visas, port entries, paperwork. You board, you relax, you disembark. But when you live on a cruise ship, the red tape never ends. Taxes, healthcare, visas, mail, banking. None of it works the way it does on land. If you spend most of the year at sea, where do you file your taxes? Are you still a resident of your home country? Do you qualify as an expat? Every country has different rules, and most cruise lines won't guide you through them. Their job is to sell you a cabin, not manage your legal life. Then there's health insurance. Most policies don't cover long-term living at sea. Need a prescription refill? You'll have to plan around port days. Miss a port due to weather? You might miss your meds. Even basic things like receiving mail or voting become complicated. Some cruisers pay for mail forwarding services. Others rely on friends back home. But nothing about it is simple. One long-term traveler told me, living at sea isn't escaping the system, it's building your own. And it's true. Because when you live on a cruise ship, you're not just at sea physically, you're floating legally too. Waking up in a new country every few days sounds like a dream. At first, it really is. You step out on deck to watch the sunrise over tropical islands, explore cobblestone streets in Europe, sail past glaciers in Alaska. But after months, the magic starts to fade. Ports blur together. Caribbean islands begin to look the same. The same souvenir shops, the same jewelry stores, the same crowds taking the same photos. Even ancient cities start to lose their sparkle when you know you'll be back in 2 weeks, following the same route, the same schedule, the same routine. What started as adventure becomes repetition. And repetition, no matter how beautiful, eventually turns numb. One cruiser told me, "I stopped taking photos after month 6. Not because I didn't care, but because every view started to feel familiar." That's the quiet truth. The thing that drew you to this life, the thrill of discovery, can slowly turn into background noise. Here's something most people never think about. Cruise ships aren't built to be permanent homes. They're designed for vacations. And that means when something goes wrong, you don't have the same safety net you'd have on land. Mechanical failures, plumbing breakdowns, power outages, storms that reroute entire itineraries overnight. If you're on board for a week, it's an inconvenience. You get a refund. You go home. But if you live there, it's different, because that ship is your home. When it loses power, you lose your home's power. When it floods, you lose your bathroom, your bedroom, your everything. And if a serious emergency happens, fire, viral outbreak, engine failure, you can't just step outside. You're at sea, with nowhere else to go. That creates a constant low-level anxiety that most people don't talk about. You might not notice it every day, but it's always there. The awareness that your entire world floats on a fragile piece of steel in the middle of the ocean. When you add it all up, the financial strain, the cramped cabins, the loneliness, the sameness, you reach the quiet truth behind this lifestyle. Burnout. It doesn't happen suddenly. It creeps in slowly, like the tide. At first, you're exhilarated. You're free. You're adventurous. You're different. Then, one day, you wake up and realize that freedom feels like fatigue. You stop going to the shows. You've seen them all. You skip the buffets. You know the menu by heart. You don't even bother getting off at some ports, because you've been there 10 times. The novelty fades. The routine sets in. And suddenly, the dream life feels like a loop you can't escape. One retired cruiser told me, "I thought I'd found paradise. But after a year, I started craving traffic, grocery stores. Even doing laundry, I missed feeling grounded." That's the final cost. Not the money, not the space, but the slow erosion of excitement, the dull ache of repetition. So when you look at the full picture, the hidden truth becomes clear. The luxury fades into routine. The costs rise higher than you ever expect. The cabins shrink your world, and eventually burnout sets in. But that doesn't mean the dream is impossible. Some people truly thrive at sea. They love the rhythm of the waves, the simplicity of life, the endless horizons that remind them how big the world really is. So if you've ever dreamed of living on a cruise ship, try it first. Book a longer voyage, 30, 60, maybe even 90 days. Experience it before you commit, because in the end, the ocean is beautiful, but it doesn't forgive illusions. I'm curious. What's the wildest, funniest, or most unexpected thing you've ever experienced on a cruise? Share it in the comments. I read everyone. Happy cruising!